Hi everybody, this is Ryan O'Grady, and this is my presentation for LBSC 791. As you can see, I did the Sparks Ignition Grant, and this was at the Enoch Pratt Free Central Library in Baltimore, Maryland. So first, let's talk about the grant. The Sparks Ignition Grant for libraries. This is a small grant that encourages libraries to prototype and evaluate specific innovations in the way they operate or provide services. This grant is given out by IMLS, or the Institute of Museum and Library Services. And as you can see from below, the grants range from $10,000 to $25,000, subject to availability. Now, I did look up the average award, and the average award is $20,000. The successful characteristics, according to the website for the grant itself, are 4 categories. The first characteristic is broad impact. This just means that it's potential for impact beyond your institution. The second is in-depth knowledge. It's that whatever you're doing innovation-wise reflects a current practice or a current strategic initiative that has been happening across libraries. The third is that it's innovative. And the fourth is that you share your results. And the grant specifically wants you to write a short white paper, which will then be publicly shared with the field. Let's turn now to the library. The library that this grant is being written for is the Enoch Pratt Free Central Library. The Enoch Pratt Free Library System is the system for Baltimore City and has 24 locations. EPFL Central is the largest of these locations, and as it is the central library, it could potentially cater to any of the user population. So, for the purposes of this mini-grant, the user population is the entire population of the city of Baltimore, which is current day 622,000. In FY13, which are the most recent statistics published, the library had a circulation of 1.3 million, 1.7 million reference assists, which will come into play later on because the innovation that this mini-grant is proposing is dealing with reference work, and 1.7 million attendance. Now, the library's mission is to provide equal access to information and services that empower, enrich, and enhance the quality of life for all. One other important thing to note about this is that there's a renovation plan from this year, 2015, all the way to 2018. So this renovation will last 3 to 4 years, and the mini-grant coincides with one particular part of the renovation, which is to change the reference service model. So now let's contextualize the grant with the library itself. And there's 3 areas I want to focus on. The first is innovation, the second is broad impact, and the third is shared results. So for innovation, the innovative new type of service will also be a new tool or service that facilitates access and use of library collections. For broad impact, this is something that can be replicated at other libraries. And for shared results, the library intends on writing a white paper that will then be shared publicly with other institutions or similar libraries. So what is the problem statement that this mini-grant proposal is focusing on? Word for word, it is, user expectations of public library reference services are shifting, and there exists a need for EPFL Central to shift with users by employing technology in the form of mobile devices that permit roving reference to meet users where their needs are. It's a little bit of a long sentence, but basically what it means is, at any point that a user needs help inside of the library, or at any place inside the library, librarians can come and help that user. So if you look at the red box, the takeaway here is that roving is about the role of the librarian in working with and being accessible to library users. And this is from Dempsey. I got this from the research that I did for the white paper. So essentially, roving reference is being accessible to the user wherever they are. So it's going to the users where their needs are. And so what's the solution? The solution that this mini-grant proposal is providing is to use Surface Pro 3s. So this will be roving reference with Surface Pro 3s. The best solution for EPFL Central is to establish roving reference with mobile devices, Surface Pro 3s, while maintaining a reference and information desk. And that is what I wrote in my white paper. Assumptions. So in writing the mini-grant proposal, there were some assumptions I made about the institution. The first is that the library will go forward no matter what with the roving reference project. The second is that these funds that we're seeking from a grant are just icing on the cake. The third is that EPFL Central will cover all personnel costs. This will come from salaries and budgeted FY plans. The fourth is that the library will cover the 6% Maryland state tax that comes from purchases made from the equipment. The next is that the library already has plans for a roving reference department. Now this is fiction. The library does not have plans, but again, I'm assuming that it does. And the last is that the library will agree to author a white paper. Now, among all of these, I recognize that the largest assumption is that EPFL Central will cover personnel costs. This was a function of the equipment already coming in at the amount that Sparks allows, and so I wanted to just assume that the personnel costs will be coming from salaries. So for this project, what are the goals? And there's 4. The first is to provide excellent customer service. The twist for the grant is that this happens in an innovative manner. The second is to make the library more accessible to all users. The third is to conduct roving reference with the Microsoft Surface Pro 3s. And the fourth is to write that white paper. Now, if you look over in the red box, here's the project overview. This project outlines an innovative roving reference model of service at EPFL Central. It seeks to have staff from public service departments rove with mobile devices to provide user assistance, library reference, and to make the library more accessible to users. Project activities. So there are 6 distinct project activities. The first is creation of the department. As I said before, this is fiction. But for the purposes of the mini-grant proposal, I'm pretending and assuming that it is happening. The second is acquiring the devices and paying for them. The third is establishing an ongoing formalized cross-training program. And again, personnel costs will not be included in the budget. The fourth is to separate the current information desk into 3 sections. And the fifth is that public service staff will rove and implement the innovative roving reference workflow at the library. And the sixth is to author that white paper that will be publicly posted and shared. If you look at the images on the left, these were reference interviews that we took over the course of a couple months from March to July of this year. And as you can see, question levels, we split them into 1, 2, 3, and 4. Level 1 are basic directional questions. Level 2 are sort of the meat of what library reference questions are. Where's this book? I'm looking for it. Can you help me get it? Level 4 are really research-oriented questions, so it's a very small percentage. And level 3 is kind of that gray area in between. Then we have a couple other questions that we generally ask. For example, are you a student? Are you looking for a job? Or is this a computer question? As you can see, at our library, we have about 90% of our questions are computer questions that we took from this roving reference pilot period. Project methods. How are we going to enact these activities? The first is that the plans for a roving reference department have already been drawn, and the library is designating various individuals that will be in this department. Activity 2 is really what this grant is for. It's seeking funding for the purchase of the devices. Activity 3, which is the training program, HR will expand and include a roving reference module. Activity 4, facilities will separate the information desk into 3 different parts. And activities 5 and 6, this will last for the entire year duration of the grant period, and public service staff will rove, and they will also author the white paper. So how will we evaluate whether we're successful or not? There are really 4 indicators. And if you look to the left, this is a snapshot of what our Google form looks like now. So quantitative data. Rovers will collect quantitative data from roving reference interactions in a Google form. Qualitative data, feedback from users, which will be oral and written, will let us know if we're providing excellent and consistent service in an innovative manner as per the grant. And the 2 last success evaluators, the first is roving 50% of the time, so we're open for 48 hours per week. So if we rove for 24 of those at 50%, this will be counted as successful implementation. And the last is authoring a white paper. The white paper satisfies the conditions of the grant, and we will submit it with collated quantitative and qualitative data. So now let's get to the budget. Microsoft has something called the Surface Pro 3 bundle. It basically comes with the device itself, a stylus, a keyboard cover, a sleeve for protection, as well as software, Office 365, and some accident protection. So in total, it's about $1,198 per unit. We want to order 20 of these units, so the total we're asking for the grant is $24,157. Now, like I said before, the average is about $20,000, so this is a little bit above average. So in terms of the equipment that we're asking for with this mini grant, it would be 20 times the Surface Pros, which amounts to the bulk of that 24 at $17,980. And then we want 20 keyboards and covers, 20 sleeves, 20 softwares, and 20 protections. And then in terms of marketing, what we're going to do at the library, for flyers, we're going to distribute flyers every month that tells users what we're doing. That costs $102. And thank you cards for those users who participate in our qualitative data. which is $96. And like I said before, personnel, $0 towards the budget. So to see the complete budget, you can see here, I did it out by month. So really almost all of the expenditures are that first month in October. And every month it goes up a little bit for those flyers and thank you cards. And at the end we have our total. And here are the references I used for the entire project. If you look at that last one, that's where the actual Sparks grant is, so you can go there and check it out. Thank you very much for listening and watching my mini grant presentation.